The moment I saw them pull into my driveway, my blood ran cold. Two men in what looked like official uniforms. But something about their eyes and the way they carried themselves screamed fake. They weren't here for a routine inspection. And they weren't going to leave quietly. My daughter was inside, completely unaware of the danger at our doorstep, and I had seconds to decide what I would, or wouldn't, allow. I'd dealt with HOA headaches before. But this crossed every line I thought was even possible. Could these imposters really get away with threatening my family in broad daylight? Or was I about to change everything in ways they'd never expect? Before the chaos arrived, our life in the neighborhood was quiet, even comforting. Weekends were spent mowing the lawn, waving to neighbors, and enjoying the small freedom of our own backyard. My daughter played safely on the swing set while I sipped coffee on the porch, blissfully unaware that beneath the manicured lawns and white picket fences, rules and restrictions lurked like invisible chains. The HOA, with its endless regulations and watchful eyes, had always been a background hum, rarely noticed, often ignored. But little did I know, a trivial complaint about a fence height, a flower bed, or a mailbox would ignite a chain of petty conflicts, turning our peaceful street into a battleground where ordinary homeowners like me would be forced to confront absurd authority in ways no one could predict. What began as small, seemingly harmless letters quickly escalated into a relentless storm of demands and threats. The HOA scrutinized every detail of our home, from the angle of the shutters to the color of the mulch, each note dripping with veiled warnings and fines that seemed more about asserting power than enforcing rules. Neighbors whispered behind curtains, their eyes suspicious, their complaints amplified into official violations that had to be addressed immediately. Every day brought a new letter, a new deadline, a new ultimatum. Emails in the morning, notices on the door in the afternoon, phone calls that rang late into the evening. Each interaction left me angrier, more determined, yet aware that a single misstep could be twisted against us. I meticulously documented every correspondence, every petty accusation, trying to maintain control, but the tension seeped into every corner of our lives. Lawn decorations were censored, plants scrutinized, our mailbox deemed non-compliant, and even the paint on the garage door became a battleground. It was absurd, infuriating, and relentless, a psychological siege designed to make us feel powerless in our own home. Then came the first encounter. Two men at the door claiming they were here on behalf of the HOA. Their manner authoritative yet off, eyes darting, their presence unsettling. They spoke of penalties, fees, and supposed violations with a cold certainty that froze me in place, my mind racing to process the audacity of it all. That moment shattered the fragile sense of safety I had taken for granted, the first glimpse of the chaos that would soon consume every hour of our lives. And as they left, their warning echoing like a threat in the empty driveway, I realized the conflict had escalated beyond fines and letters. The very security of my family was now at stake. And the next move could change everything. I knew then that I couldn't simply comply, I couldn't simply ignore it. Because this wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control, power, and crossing lines that should never have existed in a neighborhood. And as the sun set over our quiet street, I sensed the storm was only beginning, and that soon, ordinary homeowners like me would be forced to confront the absurdity, injustice, and real danger lurking behind the HOA's polished veneer. The day of reckoning arrived without warning, a tense morning thick with unease, as I watched unfamiliar vehicles pull onto the street, their presence carrying the weight of intimidation. The HOA had crossed every line imaginable, and now it seemed their confidence was limitless. Two figures approached the house, their uniforms convincing at a glance, their demeanor cold and authoritative. But there was something in the stiffness of their posture, the way they avoided eye contact, that whispered deception. My heart raced as I realized my daughter was inside, innocent and oblivious to the danger at our doorstep. Memories of every petty notice, every fine, every harassment, fueled phone call flashed in my mind, fueling a fire that refused to be contained. I stepped onto the porch, every muscle tense, my voice calm but firm, hiding the storm within. The imposters began their spiel. Warnings, threats, and demands delivered with a chilling sense of legality that should have been reassuring, but felt like a trap. They cited violations with meticulous precision, attempting to intimidate me, to bend me under the weight of false authority. But I had anticipated this, prepared for this, and refused to yield. I documented every word, every gesture, knowing the moment demanded both courage and strategy. Then, as the tension reached its apex, I confronted them with the evidence I had painstakingly gathered. Their credentials didn't check out. Their claims were baseless. And their authority, a facade crafted to terrify, crumbled under scrutiny. Their confident mask faltered, unease creeping into their posture as I calmly, but unyieldingly, outlined every misstep, every legal overreach, every false assertion. The power dynamic shifted in a heartbeat. The hunter suddenly became the hunted, and I could see the realization in their eyes that they were outmatched. As the minutes dragged, the situation escalated further, when neighbors, alerted by the commotion, began gathering, their murmurs growing into a collective challenge against the audacity of these intruders. The weight of community scrutiny amplified every word I spoke, every demand I made for their immediate departure. Tension crackled in the air like a storm ready to break, every heartbeat a drumbeat of confrontation, every breath a measure of the stakes at hand. And then, in a final, decisive move, I escorted them to their vehicles, documenting their retreat with steady precision, ensuring that the humiliation and exposure were complete. They left, their aura of control shattered. Crawling back from the doorstep, where they had sought to intimidate, leaving a silence that resonated with vindication and the echoes of justice reclaimed. Yet, even as the driveway emptied, and the street returned to its deceptive calm, I knew the story was far from over. The confrontation had resolved the immediate threat, but the lessons, the vigilance, and the lingering tension would shape every moment in the aftermath. As I closed the door behind me, my daughter's laughter echoed through the halls, a reminder that the true battle had always been about protecting what mattered most. And the fight, though won, had only revealed the full depth of what ordinary homeowners like us might endure. In the weeks and months that followed, life slowly returned to a sense of normalcy, though nothing would ever feel entirely the same. The shadow of that confrontation lingered in our minds, a reminder of how easily authority could be abused and how crucial it was to stand firm when lines were crossed. The HOA, their attempts at intimidation exposed and dismantled, became noticeably more cautious. The letters dwindled, the threats softened, and the petty fines stopped altogether. Neighbors who had once watched in silence began to speak up, emboldened by the knowledge that resistance was possible, that one family's courage could ripple through an entire community. An entire community. I found myself sharing my experience with others, cautioning them to document everything, to recognize the absurdity behind seemingly rigid rules, and to prepare for the unexpected twists that came with living under HOA oversight. The psychological weight, that had once pressed on our shoulders began to lift, replaced by a quiet confidence and the comforting knowledge that we had defended our home, our family, and our dignity. My daughter, once unaware of the threats looming just beyond our front door, now played freely in the yard with an unspoken sense of safety, the innocence of her laughter a daily affirmation that our stand had mattered. Beyond our property lines, the confrontation became a turning point in the neighborhood culture. Petty complaints and invasive inspections began to lose their power as the collective awareness of residents shifted toward accountability and transparency. The lesson was undeniable: vigilance, preparation, and courage could transform fear into empowerment. I often reflected on the absurdity of what had happened. How small, trivial rules could escalate into life-altering threats, how easily fear could be weaponized, and yet, how decisive action could restore balance. Looking back, I realized the experience had forged resilience in our family, a deeper understanding of the dynamics of power, and an unshakable resolve to protect what truly mattered. The true victory lay not only in fending off the imposters and reclaiming our home, but in reclaiming the narrative, showing that ordinary homeowners could face extraordinary challenges and emerge stronger. And as the sun set over our quiet street, I couldn't help but ask myself, and anyone listening, what lines are we willing to defend in our own lives? And how far would we go to protect the people and principles that matter most? That question lingered in the air, compelling reflection and conversation, the ultimate reminder that the fight for fairness, dignity, and safety is never truly over. But it is always worth taking a stand.